All right, we're going to look at the basic terms and definitions of geometry. So when you're thinking of this, think about building a house. Before you build your house, you have to build your foundation. This is the foundation of geometry. Some of these terms are defined, some of these terms are undefined or assumed to be true, like a point. A point is assumed to be true. So let's go through some of these. An angle you've probably seen before, we just haven't named and labeled it. So an angle is made of two rays. So a ray has a point and shoots off one direction, and then from that same point shoots off another direction. This is an angle. An angle can be labeled with a little number in front of it, so we have angle 1, or it can be labeled with letters. So we have angle L, M, N. M is always, since it's at that point, it's always the middle letter. A plane is two-dimensional. It goes on forever in 2 dimensions. Okay, it's 2-dimensional. So picture like a piece of paper that's floating, and it keeps going forever technically, but I kind of imagine that piece of paper because it's flat. So a plane looks something, normally it's drawn with 4 sides, but it doesn't have to be. And there's 2 ways to label it. Sometimes you have a pretty letter, big letter in the bottom. So you can say plane R. It's always a big cursive letter. So plane R. Or sometimes you have 3 points on the plane that are not on the same line. So you can say plane and then list those 3 points, A, B, C. Okay. A line is 1-dimensional and it goes on forever. So no endpoints. Okay. No endpoints, which means it has arrows on the end. This is the line, has the arrows on both ends. There's a couple ways to name these as well. A lot of times you're going to have a cursive lowercase letter. So we would have line L. And sometimes you have points on that line. You only need 2 points to name a line. So you could have line QR. Or you can have QR and draw a line above it. Make sure you have those arrows though if you do that. A point actually has no width, okay? A point is so microscopic we actually could barely see it if we really looked at it. So it has no width, has no height, and it's just, we imagine it like a dot. So a line is actually made of infinitely many points because you can have infinitely many points on that line since they're so itty bitty. But when you see a point, you're just going to see a big letter next to it. So you can actually label it by spelling out point, or you can just put a point and then the big letter that is naming it. Okay, we have a line segment. A line segment has 2 endpoints. So this would be, like this. Now the difference here is you want to take those endpoints when you're labeling it. So you would actually have Q, this is an L, and put a segment above it, which means no arrows above it. A ray has 1 endpoint. 1 endpoint means has an endpoint and shoots off one of the directions. So that endpoint is going to have 1 letter And then it has to have at least one other point labeled on it. Now this one's a little different. I like to start on my endpoint and then write my other letter because it starts at D and it shoots through M. But if I draw the M first, I just have to make sure I put my endpoint above D and I shoot through M. So both of those would name a ray. Okay, coplanar. Coplanar means they lie on the same plane. Okay, that means if I draw a plane here, all of this stuff inside this plane is all on the same plane. You actually also have collinear, which means on the same line. So if I have a line over here, if points are collinear, they're all going to be on that line. Okay, let's look at an example. So we have this lovely drawing down here. From this drawing, we're going to find a couple different things. What is another name? You guys go ahead and try these. What is another name? Let's call this M. For line M. Name the plane two ways. Name three non-coplanar points. Okay, so here we go. Another name for line M. Well, where's line M? He's labeled in blue. How else can we name the line? We can take two letters that are on that line, 2 points that are on that line, put a line above it. So LD. Now, if this is a line, make sure you have a line above it, or you put the word line in front of it. Okay, name the plane in two ways. What's the first way to name a plane? The first way to name a plane is find the italicized uppercase letter in the corner. So we would have plane P, or we can name 3 points on the plane that are not collinear. So plane LMA. Name 3 non-coplanar points. Non-coplanar means not on the same plane. So they're not on the same plane. So 3 non-coplanar points. Well, T out here is floating off of the plane, so as long as I include him, they're not all coplanar. So point P, point E, and point M. Since T is not on that plane, these would be not coplanar.